We're obsessed with talent, but most geniuses are just people who learned how to navigate a room without a map. Why do some people seem to understand things faster, solve problems quicker, or make better decisions with less effort, while the rest of us are still trying to figure out where the instructions went? It's not about making anyone feel inferior. It's about the fact that some people are playing a completely different psychological game. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Real-world intelligence is often just the byproduct of a high-contingency environment where you had to think 3 steps ahead just to survive the afternoon. Picture this. 2 people face the exact same disaster at work. Maybe the server crashes or a major client walk. One person panics, starts a noise spiral of complaints, and waits for a manager to hand them a script. But the other person? They slow down. They ask the kind of better questions that only come from a mechanical intuition, a belief that if you look at the gears long enough, you can master the system. The second person looks smarter, but the real twist is that they aren't necessarily more gifted, they've just trained their brain to handle optimal arousal, while everyone else is drowning in stress. What's actually happening here is a process called deeper encoding. For the bridge generation, the latchkey kids who grew up in empty houses, information wasn't cheap. You couldn't just Google the answer. You had to spend hours in a library hunting through card catalogs, or flip a bike upside down and get grease on your hands to figure out why the chain slipped. This created a brain that connects new information to old patterns faster than a high-speed fiber connection. Wait, it gets weirder. Real intelligence isn't about being the loudest person in the room or having the most tribal passion. Actually, it's often the opposite. While sports fanatics are riding the dopamine roller coaster of a game they can't control, people who operate on a higher level of practical intelligence tend to have a more consistent self-concept. They don't need external victories to feel successful because their self-esteem is calibrated internally, not by the crowd. They've learned that being visible often just means being vulnerable, so they keep their best ideas close to the vest until they actually matter. Most people think intelligence is just a high IQ or a fancy title, but in the Gen X worldview, titles are just paper. Real-world intelligence shows up in the quiet ability to observe what everyone else is rushing past. It's about being a participant in your own life instead of just a spectator to someone else's drama. Some people talk fast and sound brilliant, but their thinking is shallow because they're just chasing a dopamine hit of approval. The smartest person in the room is usually the one who is comfortable with being bored, because that's where the best ideas are actually born. So, how do you actually improve the way your mind works without a time machine? First, stop being a spectator. If you're spending 3 hours a day experiencing someone else's struggle, whether it's a sports team or an influencer's life, you're directing your empathy and mental energy toward a dead end. Second, build a mechanical intuition. Stop looking for the manual and start looking for the patterns. Ask the kind of questions that challenge the rules that everyone else is following just because they were told to. Third, practice silence. Pause before you react emotionally to a problem. When you regulate your emotions, you stop stress from blocking your thinking, which allows you to see the pink slips coming before the rest of the room even knows there's a layoff. The reframe is simple. Intelligence isn't something you're born with. It's something you practice by refusing to be fooled by the noise. You might not control your starting point, but you can control whether you're the most valuable person in the room when the rug gets pulled out. The goal isn't to be the smartest person in the room. The goal is to become faster to learn and better at understanding the why behind the what. If you're ready to stop being a spectator and start understanding the actual mechanics of how the mind works, hit subscribe. We're building a space for the observers, the people who'd rather have the psychological truth than the social media noise. I genuinely value having you in the mix.